Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at the outset to thank Mr. Michael Haleu, the Director of the Technical Center for Agriculture and Rural Cooperation, for kindly inviting me to attend and participate in these briefings on small islands' economies, from vulnerability to opportunities. I've been asked to share some thought on the topics titled The Multifaceted Impact of the Financial, Food and Climate Crisis on the Small Islands' Economies. Let me begin by prefacing that my reference to small island developing states in my remarks covers 38 United Nations member states and 14 non-self-governing territories who are associated members of the United Nations Regional Commissions that together make up the 52 seats which falls under the purview of the Office of the High Representative. As many here will know, long before the financial and food crisis of recent years, small island developing states had already raised their concern at the international level of the inherent vulnerabilities of how external shocks impact their economies and how greater production, export, cash crops lead to unsustainable agricultural practices and impact upon food production. And 20 years ago, even without the many advancements of scientific knowledge that have been amassed since, SIDS proclaimed that they were particularly vulnerable to global climate variability, and sea level rise. Indeed, they continue to be on the front line of climate crisis. But perhaps more importantly, to SIDS, they have welcomed the fact that the international community, and in particular the United Nations, has acknowledged their vulnerabilities. The Barbados Programme of Action for the Sustainable Development of the Small Island Developing States and its Mauritius Strategy for Implementation affirmed that SIDS vulnerabilities, including those that concern finance, food, climate change, both BPOA and MSCA predated the financial and food crisis. The global financial crisis of the past few years has further exacerbated these pre-existing vulnerabilities. Small island developing states have some of the most open economies, and SIDS also have high dependence on a narrow range of income-generating sectors, such as tourism and fisheries. As such, they keenly felt the impacts of the global economic downturn. Some of the effects of the global financial crisis on SIDS economy included a fall in export demand, a decline in remittances from migrant workers, reduced foreign direct investment, reduced access to financial credit, change in credit rating, and increased unemployment. On foreign direct investment, the 2011 UNCTAD World Investment Report stated that while FDI's inflows have in general increased globally since the financial crisis, FDI inflows in SIDS as a whole declined slightly in 2010. The inherent vulnerabilities of SIDS, such as the small size of the economies, lack of human resources, and high transportation and communication costs, contributed to continuing difficulties they face in attracting FDIs. As a result, total inflows to these economies remain at a very low level, accounting for less than 1% of the total FDI inflows in developing world in recent years. Small island developing states will need to continue to develop and strengthen policies that will allow for an enabling environment that attract FDI. public and private partnerships will need to be further strengthened as well. For many seeds, a dynamic, well-functioning, small and medium-sized enterprises in particular can play a crucial role in promoting entrepreneurship, investment, competition, innovation, and economic diversification, as well as achieving full and productive employment and decent work. Seeds, particularly in the Caribbean and the Pacific regions, are known for their regional cooperation and integration efforts. The opportunity also exists for increased international interaction between the regional private sector bodies such as the Caribbean Association for Industry and Commerce and the Pacific Island Private Sector Association. SEEDS will need continued support in the areas of tourism, including ecotourism, with particular emphasis on entrepreneurship. Tourism remains as one of the largest industries in the SEEDS. The unique biodiversity and culture of SEEDS continue to be the main draw for tourism development in these countries. SEEDS will need to sustainably use their unique resources. On remittances, reports have found that these have a bigger impact on the economies of SEEDS than those of any other group of countries in the world. And while there was an upward trajectory trend of inward remittances prior to the financial crisis, there was a record drop in the inward remittances in 2009, which could be attributed to the downturn of the world economy. Studies also show that a large portion of inward remittances are spent on consumable products. While this is understandable, there is room to explore policies and strategies that encourage remittances to be invested in income-generating activities as well. For many SEEDS, the financial crisis further compounded the debt problem. Many SEEDS are classified as middle-income and high-income countries by the International Financial Institution, and as such, do not have access to international debt relief initiatives such as HIPIC initiative. Some SEEDS, however, are among the most heavily indebted countries in the world, with some of the highest public debt to GDP ratios. Such situations also offer SEEDS opportunities for innovative debt financing and reduction approaches, including debt swap arrangements that could be explored for certain types of debts. With regard to food crisis, it has had a wide-ranging and multifaceted impact on SEEDS as well. The economies of many SEEDS, due to their inherent size, constraints, remoteness, are import-dependent. Transport costs to SEEDS are among the highest in the world. Local conditions, including infrastructural handicaps, further increase transportation costs for these SEEDS, which in turn leads to higher food costs. While many SEEDS might resort to subsistence farming to supplement their dietary needs in the face of such rising food costs, those in the urban areas do not often have the resources to such activities due to lack of available land and other social and land pressures. Many SEEDS depend on the marine resources and products for food, but pressures on such resources emanating from local population increase, overfishing and climate change impacts, including ocean acidification and coral bleaching, have meant that such resorts to marine resources for protein are not always guaranteed. Health concerns are another aspect of the food crisis. Some SEEDS populations are foregoing most nutritious but expensive food products for cheaper alternatives that are often poor in nutritional value. This contributes to health-related problems, including the rise of non-communicable diseases in many SEEDS. This, in turn, further puts burden on seeds health services. Lessons learned from food crisis also present opportunities for seeds to develop and strengthen food security policies and implement such policies where they already exist. The linkage, climate change and food security issues for seeds is an obvious one. Hence, due in part to the global food crisis, several small island developing states are developing policies that promote consumption of domestically produced staples, including root crops. The need to focus on climate-resilient, salt-tolerant crops should continue. By now, perhaps, everybody knows that climate change and sea level rise continue to pose a significant risk to seeds and their effort to achieve sustainable development. For some seeds, it represents the greatest of the threats to their survival and viability. The international community accepts that seeds will need to adopt adaptation measures to deal with climate change. It is well recognized that the seeds themselves cannot summon the capacity and resources needed to adapt to climate change. The opportunity exists given the current lack of infrastructure development in many small island developing states to implement climate-proof projects, including in new infrastructural projects that take into consideration climate adaptation considerations. While expensive, it makes economic sense to make such investment upfront now rather than dealing with additional and potentially greater expenses later. More recently, some small island developing states have raised another facet of the implications of climate change at the United Nations. These seats are saying that climate change is a security issue and that it should be dealt with as such in an appropriate fora. This led to the adoption by the United Nations General Assembly of a resolution entitled Climate Change and its Possible Security Implications. While the content of the resolution was modest, it was none of the less a recognition of the urgency of the matter by the United Nations General Assembly. Recent international initiatives on climate change financing could have positive ramifications for seeds on the issues of climate change adaptation and mitigation. An example is the Green Climate Fund, established through the UNFCCC process. Seeds will have a voice on the board of this fund. The early operationalization of the fund is in the interest of the small island developing state. Seeds constrain their adaptive capacity as well known. Mechanisms and strategies to assist many seeds implement potentially large projects may need to be put in place. In this connection, Seeds regional organization will continue to play their supportive role in assisting them in their respective regions. Seeds themselves have taken initiative to address the high costs involved in their dependency on fossil fuel while currently tackling the mitigation measures. The Seed Doc initiatives is one that seeds-grown initiative involving intergovernmental institutions in the region in cooperation with New York-based Alliance of Small Island Developing States. While a shift to renewable energy is a long-term objective, many seeds still rely on fossil fuel for energy needs and monumental cost that could be better expended in supporting of other productive sectors. Therefore, adding to the call that I just made, I would like to further make the following remarks in closing. In order to better identify opportunities for the small island developing state, there must be a broader recognition of the seed's vulnerabilities, particularly by the wider international community beyond the only United Nations, including the international financial institutions. In view of the current global economic situation, further attention to the unique and particular vulnerabilities of small island developing states must be duly made, including in the context of partnerships, agreements, and trades. Seeds must be supported in their effort to foster agriculture production, productivity, and sustainability, and prioritize food security, including through access to and appropriate use of modern technologies and access to markets, as well as empowerment of small-scale farmers, including women and rural communities in particular. Mr. Chair, I will stop here, and thank you for giving me the chance.